Over the years, people frequently asked me which would be the best upgrades on their stock, sometimes not so well performing Airsoft replicas. Eventually, players have not been happy with range or accuracy, or they did not like the sound signature of their replicas. When thinking about the advice I gave in those individual situations, and summing them up for this video now, they actually can be reduced to 4 main upgrades you actually can do to every single stock replica, no matter if AEG, HPA, GBB or spring-powered. There's only one exception. Those tips are not necessarily valid for any kind of CQB, Speedsoft or something like that. I'm talking more about typical outdoor use on mid or long range airsoft distances. On the other hand, there have been several upgrade parts that, from my personal point of view, are not only useless, but even can bring you some disadvantages while playing airsoft. Although I already guess my opinion on those could be kinda unpopular. After watching some of my videos here on YouTube, you maybe have noticed I almost always use optics on my airsoft rifles that have a magnifying reticle. Why do I think this is such an important upgrade? Well, I really like to see where my BBs are flying, also when not being able to find them on the naked eye. On distances above, let's say 40 meters, I often get the impression of having a slight advantage against players without magnification, because the optic makes it easier to adjust my shots from where the BBs came down first. Take this one for example. My opponent is far out of my replica's regular range, so I have to aim way higher than normally. Without the zoom-in effect of the optic, I would have had no clue that the BBs obviously landed close to the opponent, as I see from his reaction. So I kept firing, slightly adjusting, and finally got that hit. My favorite kind of scope is this type of a prism scope with a 3x magnification, which is a replica of the Vortex Spitfire Gen 2. But you also can get similar devices from Novridge or other brands. Those are not much bigger than typical Aimpoint T1 red dots and still offer you that huge advantage of magnification. Silencers, or suppressors for all of you who like this term better, were a thing I have been very skeptical about for a long time. I was thinking, there cannot be that much of a difference by putting a metal pipe with some foam inside on my replica. Oh man, I was so wrong on this one. Since I went a little deeper into this topic and did some testing, I found the sound signature of your airsoft replica can be reduced significantly, as this quick demonstration on my Wolverine MTW clearly shows. Now you may think, man, that's an HPA replica. They benefit a lot of airsoft silencers, but on AEGs or GBBRs, they are basically useless. Well, no. About 1 year ago, I did some very detailed research and learned there is a measurable effect on every single of the 4 airsoft types: HPA as well as AEG, spring-powered sniper replicas and GBB rifles. Of course, the effect is not the same on each of the 4 systems, but it was clearly there and, to my surprise, more effective than I earlier thought. Even on the crappy suppressor I made myself for this test. So, if you want to sneak around on the airsoft field more silently, you definitely should keep an eye open for a good silencer. No matter if you craft one by yourself or purchase one online. Costs, however, are not that much out of control. Really good airsoft silencers are sold for less than 50 euros. If you ask me, the crazy thing about upgrading your airsoft replica is that the most effective change you can do in terms of range and precision is also one of the cheapest: installing a new HopUp bucking. Those little pieces of rubber are responsible for the backspin on the BB, which makes it fly further, for proper air seal, and for centralizing the BB always in the same position inside your barrel. Prices for upgrade buckings will most likely not go past 20 bucks. But now see what difference there can be between an outdated bucking and a modern bucking that came in for exchange, while no other parts have been swapped out. It's also important to pick the correct tensioner for the bucking of your choice. That's the little nub applying pressure directly on the rubber and has a certain shape, which can make a huge difference as well. Usually the bucking manufacturers offer their own matching products. If this is not the case, there are also standard shapes, such as concave or flat tensioners. In the end, it's a little bit about finding the perfect solution for yourself, but the results can be very rewarding. If you are not sure which bucking you should pick, my comparison videos could give you a first idea of what could work well for you. I placed the links for you in the info box. Heavy BBs are probably even more important for a stable and long flight path than the HopUp bucking, or let me describe it this way. The main precondition in order to use heavy BBs is, next to a few minor factors, to have a proper HopUp bucking installed. My personal advice would be, pick the heaviest type of BB you can find, which A, can be lifted properly by your HopUp bucking, and B, will not cause any loss in joules due to not enough air volume compared to lighter options. The heavier the BB is, the longer it will maintain its backspin due to mass inertia, and therefore will fly further. Plus, because it is heavier, the effect of wind or little leaves or branches in its way will be limited. This example shows the trajectory of two different BB weights by the same manufacturer. First, we have 0.36 grams loaded. And now we are using 0.43 grams. You can watch the circle of BBs arriving close to the target is significantly smaller on the heavier BBs compared to the lighter ones, which are only 0.07 grams apart. Now imagine what the difference between 0.25s and 0.45s could do. The only downside is, of course, the price of the BBs increases the heavier the BBs get. But if you ask me, this is one of the best ways to spend your money in Airsoft and get the most effect out of it. Other than on the following 4 ideas, which are basically the opposite in my eyes, a complete waste of money in most cases. Okay, now we are getting to the points where you will probably want to throw rotten tomatoes at me, because I do not necessarily agree with the popular opinion of the industry here. I personally would not install the so-called upgrade inner barrels anymore, although I did in the past and fell for it several times as well. Many people believe they will get huge advantages by using tight bore barrels, wide bore barrels, medium bore barrels or whatsoever. Or they believe in magic air cushion systems carrying the BB even further than the Magnus effect would do. My personal experience is, changing the inner barrel, if you already have a healthy stock barrel, does not bring major advantages in terms of groupings or range. I have tried all the big brands over the years, from TNT over PDI up to Prometheus. If there were any difference noticeable at all, they were so minimal I would not want to pay prices up to $150 for them. I'm not saying those inner barrels are bad products, but what I think is the cost-benefit ratio of those is very low. However, I do think there can be situations when an inner barrel exchange does make sense. If you want to increase your energy, for example, and there is no other way to do it, a longer or tighter inner barrel can be the way to go. Or your old inner barrel is scratchy and you would like to replace it for a more sturdy product. Also a good time to upgrade from brass to stainless steel, for example. A third reason could be you really need a larger or specially shaped HopUp window for the desired bucking. Also this case would justify a new inner barrel for me. But besides, if your stock inner barrel is still good and you're not experiencing crazy flyers or something, I think an expensive upgrade inner barrel will not bring you major benefits. The thing about aluminum HopUp units is not so different from that inner barrel thing actually. I often read statements such as aluminum units are better than plastic ones, or the hop will be applied more consistently. What I have learned so far is that both is not necessarily true, and for sure not a question of the fancy colored material many units come with. The question is, do you want to exchange your HopUp chamber just because the stock one is made of plastics? Especially for one of the very same design, just made from any sort of metal? Then the new part is most likely not gonna bring you any kind of performance upgrade. But upgrade chambers very often come with some quality of life features that can justify a purchase. For example, there's newer units by Bugatti or Max Model which allow you to shim the distance between chamber and gearbox by using those metal rings. Or you decide for a chamber which works in a completely different way. Let's say you had a traditional M4 chamber with those 3 little gears on the right side and want to upgrade to a TDC system. This indeed can be something you will notice when going to your next game. Or, of course, in case your old HopUp chamber is broken, again the same logic as on the upgrade inner barrels. This can be a good time for a more sturdy alternative. I remember the time when I was one of those guys who do not care about the weight of their equipment, and especially of the Airsoft replica at all. But meanwhile, getting a little older every year, I do welcome every gram of weight I actually can reduce from my loadout, which also includes the choice of external add-ons on the rifle. Nowadays, I enjoy playing only with the add-ons that are really necessary for me, which basically is my Magnification optics I told you about in the beginning, and the scope camera for capturing in-game footage. The handguard and suppressor on this build, for example, are made of 3D printed polymer and carbon fiber, which makes them extra lightweight and help to prevent getting pain in the back soon. If you are in your early 20s, this point maybe is not that important for you, but I still recommend not to spend money on external add-ons that you most likely will not need for Airsoft. From my experience, those are, for example, bipods, metal front grips, or giant scopes, which also are available in smaller sizes. Also for dummy pack boxes or lights, which however are very popular here in Germany, I don't understand the actual use. Besides the improved looks, of course. The money you could save on those, you could invest into heavier BBs instead. At least this is what I would do. Maybe you have noticed those gadgets as well here and there on the Airsoft fields recently. Small tracer-like screw-ons that are supposed to give you a more realistic feel of a firearm when shooting your Airsoft replica. While some of them emit some sort of steam, which I think actually can look very nice, some others also have the option to simulate a real muzzle flash. When buying those, you always should be aware that this flash will give away your position on the field very easily. This is one of the best examples I could find in my recordings. My opponent did a very good job in terms of camouflage. The colors of his gear matched the woodland surroundings very well. But he destroys his entire camo effort with this Muzzle Flash Simulator, which is super obvious to see in the field. When playing in the evening or at night, this effect gets even stronger. At this night game I would have had no clue about the opponent's position, but suddenly this flashing light turned on, without even shooting tracer BBs. For sure, there are also in-game situations in which it's no disadvantage to use such a Muzzle Flash Simulator. The CQB game, for example. But as I tried to make clear in the intro, the tips I just presented to you are mainly meant for playing outdoors, where other factors are important than in tight indoor surroundings. But wherever you prefer to play with those things, just be aware you are not the only one seeing this stylish, flashy. The cool thing about Airsoft is, you can configure your replica however you like, as long as it is field legal, of course. I'm sure there are a lot of other Airsoft YouTubers out there telling you a completely different story of what you should and should not do with your rifle. This is why all the listed points are just my 2 cents basically. If you like, feel free to take them as an inspiration for your own Airsoft build. But if you disagree with what I just said, you are welcome to tell me in the comments, so we could discuss the questionable points. Some of the videos I did on related topics are also linked for you in the info box below, so we can go together more into detail there if you like. Would be cool to see you over there. So long, have a good one.